Hello and welcome to a SendGrid showcase. Today we'll be showing you some of our main features through a relatively simple task of sending out contacts from an e-commerce platform called Ecwid to an email infrastructure platform called SendGrid and to Google Sheets. First, we'll need to set up our integrations. Let's start off with our source integration, in this case Ecwid. If this is your first time setting up an Ecwid integration, you will need your Ecwid credentials. Next, we will need to set up a SendGrid integration, which is going to be our first target integration. When prompted for an API key, simply go to the SendGrid application, then go to Settings, API keys. As you see here, I've already set up this beforehand, so just copy the API key and paste it where you were prompted to. Lastly, we will need to set up our final integration, which is going to be Google Sheets. It's a fairly straightforward process. It's just a matter of selecting a Google account you wish to use. Now that we have all of our integrations set up, one source integration and two target ones, it's time to create a project. Let's name it Use Case 2020, and here in the description you can either leave it blank or give a short description of what the project will actually do. Once the project is created, it's time for us to set up our first task. Kindly note that you can set up integrations within the task itself. You don't have to set it up beforehand. As you know, we have already pre-prepared them, so it's just a matter of selecting which one is going to be the source integration and which ones are going to be the target integrations. In this drop-down menu, you can see the list of all the entities that this source integration can basically send out further. We'll choose the customer. Now we need to choose our first target integration, and let's go with SendGrid as our first one. As you'll see in the list of the drop-down entities, there are only contacts, which suits us perfectly. Now, if we only wanted one target integration, we would simply go next and begin fine-tuning the project. However, since we also want our contacts to be sent to Google Sheets, we'll click this plus sign and just select another target integration. Judging by the drop-down menu where the entities are, we can see that the Google Sheet is about to receive a spreadsheet from our e-commerce source. With this out of the way, we can proceed further with the task. SendGrid has a nice visual representation you can see here at the top, showing all the required steps before we can actually complete our task. So first thing is filtering the source data. For example, as you see here in our list of customers, if we want only customers with the surname row, we can apply that with our filter. We can choose the name or the keyword, then select equals and simply type row. However, in our scenario, we'll simply leave the filter blank. Moving on, we have the target filter. So same story. If we wanted to filter something out, we could easily do it in this section. However, we'll just skip it. We are now at the mapping section. So what is mapping? Mapping is matching the fields required by the target destination with the fields that our source integration has. SendGrid has a neat feature where this process is really nicely visually represented, and mapping is simply a manner of dragging the fields from the left-hand side and matching them to those on the right-hand side. In our case, we will only need the email and a name. So what we do is drag the email field found on the left hand side and repeating that process for the name as well. Based on the type of the target integration, some fields might be mandatory to get mapped. The way you can tell that a field is mandatory is by an orange dot next to the name of the field. In this case, no fields are actually mandatory, so we are safe to proceed. Next up is configuring our second target integration, which would be Google Sheets. First, we need to select the location where our Google Sheet is going to get created, and then simply name the file we wish to create. What is left is to actually add columns that our Google Sheet will have. In our case, we only need two, which are name and an email. Of course, like we did with our first target, we need to map the fields. So the process is the same. We drag and drop the email found on our left hand side, so it matches the email on the right hand side, and we repeat that same process for the name. We have finally reached our last step, which is task automation. Now, SendGrid has two trigger types for the task to begin. One is on event and another is on schedule. In this specific case, we only have on event available, which means that our task will begin as soon as another one is completed. So for the brevity's sake of this video, we don't actually have or need any additional tasks. We are simply going to trigger our task manually. Another useful option that SendGrid has is for an email to arrive on a specific address whenever a task succeeds or fails. So after we click next, we will get taken to our task dashboard. As you can see, SendGrid has a neat visual representation of what this task will actually do. As we see, we have a source integration, and it will send out its data to two target integrations. Let us go ahead and trigger this task manually. Once it's triggered, we'll get taken to the execution log, and here you can see the percentage of the task complete, and also you can follow the execution in real time. Depending on the size of the task, it usually takes a few minutes, and this one shouldn't take long, considering we only have 4 contacts. Now that our task is complete, it's time to go and check whether the contacts got imported. As you see here, 4 new contacts got added. Now let us go to Google Sheets and see whether a new document got created, these 4 contacts as well. And here's that document, exactly how we named it. You can see 2 columns, email and name, and they're filled with the contact information. So there you have it. The task has been successfully completed. We managed to send contact information from source to 2 target integrations, basically from scratch, in about 10 minutes. Thank you all for bearing with me, and have a pleasant day.